What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here, on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from May 5th, 2021. It's Blood and Guts. What are my thoughts on this show? Now, overall thoughts on the show, I thought this was a really good show. I enjoyed it from top to bottom. The undercard was kind of rushed, mainly because they were trying to save it for the Blood and Guts match, because that was the main priority, because, it's AEW's version of WarGames, and it's available on free television instead of on pay-per-view. Some people say it should have been at Double or Nothing. I could agree, but, AEW's mentality, they're trying to get that high rating, so, of course they're going to have a Blood and Guts match. And, fun fact, I was actually supposed to attend this show last year. As you guys know, Blood and Guts was originally scheduled to be Inner Circle versus the Elite last year at Prudential Center. I'm from Jersey. Literally, I had my tickets, but as you know, COVID happened, and that postponed the show. And we waited a whole year just for this match. So we never got Inner Circle versus the Elite, but we did get Inner Circle versus Pinnacle, which I do think was better. What I mean by better is, this was a better combination, Inner Circle and Pinnacle rather than Inner Circle and Elite. Because we all know, Inner Circle and Elite, it would have been awesome, but at the same time, Inner Circle versus Pinnacle is more badass. I'm not going to lie. We never got that match between Inner Circle and Elite, but you know what I mean. It's a better combination, Pinnacle and Inner Circle. I love the story between the two. But the show started, Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Now, quick note on the show, or the undercard, I would say, is that the entire undercard is basically the first hour. Now, what I found out was apparently this show, actually not apparently, this is actually true, because I saw a video on Twitter about a person that actually attended the event. Because, by the way, this show is 50% capacity at Daly's Place, and I swear, the energy in this crowd was amazing. And not only that, we are going to get a full capacity crowd at Double or Nothing May 30th. Holy crap. We're back. It's going to be awesome. I'm really going to be enjoying the pay-per-view. We got a full, one thing that AEW strived on before the pandemic was the audience, the crowd. Literally, it was unlike any crowd you've ever seen. They were invested in every freaking match in the card, whether it sucked or whether it was good. The crowd was still into, the whole show every week when you tuned in on TNT. Honestly, the crowd was amped up for every show you'd watch. And I'm glad to see that, we got full capacity at Double or Nothing May 30th, so I'm really excited for that. But we got Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Michael Nakazawa comes in the ring with Don Callis. Don Callis basically states, in the history of Japanese professional wrestling, they have legends like Inoki, Boba, Ibushi, Okada, Nakazawa, all those guys. Hey, you never know. They could tease Okada and Omega. Yeah, I'm just kidding, but you never know. They may book a match, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Okada's a free agent. But, yeah. It says Omega was unable to attend the event, and the commentators, Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, was like, nah, I saw him backstage, so, yeah. So he's here. Moxley and Omega enter the ring. And basically, Nakazawa, told by Don Callis, is like, oh, yeah, you're going to fight by yourself. You're going to be fine. And then, so they enter the ring. Omega comes from behind and hits Moxley and Omega with the title belt. The match starts. Nakazawa is stomping on Kingston. Omega tags in. We get a double team by Omega and Nakazawa. Elbows in the corner on Kingston. Moxley comes in and fights off Omega and Nakazawa. We get a side slam counter by Jon Moxley. A suicide dive by Moxley on Nakazawa outside the ring. Moxley grabs Omega, sends him to the guardrail. Kingston grabs Nakazawa. We get a couple right hands by Nakazawa by Kingston. Double team by Kingston and Omega. We get a cover by Kingston, but a near fall. Low blow by Nakazawa on Kingston, which looked crazy. The referee didn't see it, by the way. Omega applies the leg on the head of on Kingston. Omega continues to work on Kingston. Nakazawa kicks Kingston in the back. Couture crusher by Omega on Kingston. Omega tries to go for a brainbuster, but Kingston does not let him. We get a couple chops in the corner by Kingston. Kingston no-sells them, and then he retaliates with a couple of his chops on his own. Then we get back and forth chops. Enziguri by Omega on Kingston. Omega tries to go for the middle rope moonsault by Kingston, but counters with a falling clothesline. Moxley tags in. Nakazawa tags in. We get a clothesline by Moxley. Clothesline in the corner by Moxley. Stomps in the corner by Moxley. Moxley grabs the hair of Omega and takes Omega down. We get a German suplex by Moxley. A pile driver by Moxley. Haven't seen that in a while. Covering a 2 count. Omega's in the outside. John Moxley's basically putting a sleeper hold right now on Nakazawa while Omega's trying to basically get inside the ring, but Kingston is out letting him. And then Omega just apparently just leaves because, in heel fashion, heels do that. They get scared, but it is what it is. Heels are heels. But later, he retreats, as I stated earlier. Kingston has Nakazawa in a German suplex position. We get a clothesline by Moxley, and then later Kingston proceeds to hit a German suplex after Nakazawa gets hit with the clothesline. So a great double team by both Moxley and Kingston. We get a cover and a 3 count. Moxley and Kingston win the match. A couple people were kind of mad about this. A few people, not a few people, but fans were kind of upset that, they lost Omega and Nakazawa. But I would say this. I feel like this is the right decision, because it's not Omega taking the pinfall. If Omega basically took the pinfall, I would have probably been pissed, and I would have been like, that makes no sense. Omega shouldn't lose at all. I feel like the next time Omega should lose should be in for the AEW World Title, not for all the other titles that he has. So for the AEW World Title, I think Hangman will go over Omega whenever they will book that match. But I think we will see Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega in the future. All right, but. So the Young Bucks come out, and Tony Schiavone is basically saying, "What are they dressed in?" It's weird. The Young Bucks were dressed weirdly for these past few weeks. The Good Brothers from behind attack Kingston and Moxley. The Good Brothers now start beating up Moxley and Kingston. We get a Magic Killer by the Good Brothers on Moxley. Matt Jackson super kicks Moxley. Nick Jackson super kicks on Kingston. Omega comes back, and the Young Bucks personal cameraman Brandon Cutler comes out as well. Omega hits the one-winged angel on Eddie Kingston. And then he's basically mocking a pinfall, thinking that, oh yeah, I beat Eddie Kingston. No, you didn't. But it is what it is. He's the heel here, guys. He's the heel. But yeah, what are my thoughts on this match? This match went quick like all the other matches in the undercard, like QT and Cody. Britt Baker's match against whoever she faced. I forgot what her name, because I haven't seen her on Dynamite before. If she was on Dark, put it in the comments below, because I don't even know who she was. But that's a discussion for later in this review. All right, just announced we got Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's World Title at Double or Nothing May 30th. I'm excited. Britt Baker's going over whether you like it or not. Britt Baker is amazing. I enjoy Britt Baker. I love her work. She's awesome. She's an awesome heel, and she's pretty entertaining. I'm not gonna lie. She's really entertaining to watch every week on Dynamite. She entertains the hell out of me, and she's awesome. Her match with Thunder Rosa was awesome. I loved her match with Thunder Rosa, and that shot of her all bloodied up was iconic. It's iconic in my opinion. But yeah, we get Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall. All right, as soon as Cody enters the ring, he runs towards QT and gives multiple right hands. Later, QT grabs Cody's belt and hits him in the back. He works on Cody. We got a roll-up by Cody. We got a 2 count. Chops in the corner by QT. We get a couple chops in the corner by Cody. QT fights back with a couple chops. Cody works on QT. We got a running elbow on QT. Cody goes to the top. We got a double underhook by QT from the top. A German suplex by QT. QT gives right hands on Cody outside the ring. Chops by QT. Lays his hands on Arn Anderson. Anderson fights back, which is pretty awesome. I'd love to see Arn Anderson fight back. The referees try to separate them both. Cody fights back in the ring. QT fights back. We got a cover and a 2 count by QT. A jumping knee by QT on Cody. Sends Cody in the outside. Both fight it out outside the ring. Both go back inside. QT works on Cody. Cody fights back. We got a double crossbody by both Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall. Right hands by QT. Then we get a couple right hands back by Cody. A big boot by QT. Cody tries to go for the sunset flip. QT catches Cody. Pulls down the tights of QT and basically on national television saw QT's ass, which was not pleasant, but whatever. DDT by Cody on QT. Cody goes to the top. We get a moonsault by Cody, a cover, and a 2 count. And then we get a disaster kick attempt by Cody. QT ducks. We get a back elbow by QT. QT catches Cody and hits the crossroads. Cover and a 2 count. Cody counters the cutter with a backslide. QT catches Cody into a buckle bomb, which is crazy. tombstone attempt by QT. Cody counters, and then QT counters with the tombstone. So they're basically flip-flopping tombstone. They were both trying to tombstone each other. But Cody eventually hits the tombstone. We get a cover and a 2 count. Crossroads by Cody after. QT kicks out. Cody helps QT up and applies the figure 4 leg lock. Cody is basically busted open after that, and QT taps out. Cody wins the match. What are my thoughts? I thought this was a pretty good match. I was not really invested in QT Marshall's new faction. I feel like they need a little more build-up. I feel like it was, I don't know. I'm just not invested right now in their faction. Anthony Ogogo and who else is in that faction? I keep forgetting their names too because they're guys I haven't seen before. But yeah, Anthony Ogogo comes in and punches Cody in the stomach and covers the UK flag on Cody. What are my thoughts? Oh, well, they're probably going to be feuding more often. But QT Marshall's new faction, The Factory, I'm just not really invested in right now. I just think right now I feel like it's just a random faction just put together. But at the same time, I feel like they're trying to build a foundation for trios titles. So, yeah. So we got that new faction going. We get a backstage segment. Well, not really backstage, but on the stairs of Daly's place. Backstage with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Sky says that Sting is nothing more than a mosquito sucking out the blood of AEW. Says that they kill mosquitoes. Calls himself the franchise bitch. Ethan Page talks about Darby Allin's in-ring history. Talks about his medical history. Continues to cut a promo on Darby Allin. And Darby proceeds to attack them from behind. And a brawl breaks loose. It's a 2-on-1 attack. We get a coffin drop on the scaffolding by Darby Allin. Now, Darby Allin is one of those wrestlers that are just crazy and just doesn't care. He has that Sabu mentality where he just doesn't care what happens to his body. Like, Sabu did some crazy things back in the days of ECW. And, in WWE when he had that run in WWE. And also in TNA. But, like, Darby Allin is, like, to a whole new level. Sky throws a trash can on Darby Allin, right? Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky drive Darby Allin's face on the concrete floor, and they just throw Darby Allin down the stairs, and he just falls like crazy. And I'm like, this guy is going to kill himself. Like, literally, I swear. Darby Allin, look, I love his mentality and attitude, but at the same time, you're just like, this guy's just going to literally, like, this guy's trying to hurt himself. Like, he doesn't care what bumps he takes. He just does it. He has no care for his body whatsoever. But yeah, that was brutal as hell. But hey, that's Darby Allin for you. So yeah, Britt Baker versus Julia Hart. The match starts. Britt kicks Julia. Britt works on Julia. Sling blade by Baker. We get a couple right hands. Crashes Julia into the ring. Cover. She tries to cover basically Julia Hart, but then pulls her up and applies the lockjaw. Julia Hart taps out, and Hikaru Shida wins the match. Julia Hart had no offense whatsoever because I believe she's someone new. She's enhancement talent, I would say. I don't know if she wrestled on Dark, so I shouldn't say that. But if she wrestled on Dark, please let me know because I do not watch Dark. I think Dark is great and Dark Elevation is great, but at the same time, it's just too much content that you have to follow. Like, If when AEW does their second show, which I assume is going to be a Saturday night show at 6:05 on TBS, that's my assumption. I will watch the show, but I will not watch Dark or Dark Elevation because those shows are just way too long and it's just too much content that you have to like dive into. Like I that's just too much content, bro. But it is what it is. I keep saying that over and over. It is what it is. I should tag that. It is what it is, guys. All right. We get a video package of Taz talking about Christian Cage's kill switch. We've seen these video packages before, but then he puts over Will Hobbs, and this nothing special. Team Taz kind of went downhill. They're still great. I enjoy Team Taz, but like Team Taz right now is just, I don't know. I feel like Team Taz are just like nobody cares about them right now. Right now, I feel like they will be a bigger deal later on. They were already a big deal before, but I feel like right now during the spring, I feel like right now they're kind of not important right now because the two major factions, of course, especially in this show, of course, are Inner Circle and Pinnacle. But yeah, we get a 4-way tag match: the Varsity Blondes versus Jurassic Express versus SCU versus My favorite tag team right now in AEW, The Acclaimed. I enjoy The Acclaimed. Dude, Max Caster rapping is crazy, bro. He said that like in 10 years, you know, the Varsity Blondes will not even be a tag team and they'll be an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Like, come on, man. Like, you are crazy for like saying stuff like that. But like, man, dude, these like Max Caster sometimes, like, I don't want to say sometimes, but like many times just goes overboard when he raps. This guy's a star. But yeah, it was kind of difficult to take notes on this match because it's a 4-way and like literally it's just there's so many guys in this match that like you can't keep up. But I'll try my best to see to tell you guys the notes that I have. We get Kazarian and Jungle Boy who start the match. Technical wrestling by both. We get a headlock by Jungle Boy, roll up by Kazarian. We get a 2 count. Counter roll-ups by both competitors. Max Caster tags in. A brawl breaks out between all the teams after. Headlock by Max Caster on Daniels. We get a double team by The Acclaimed on Daniels. We get a cover and a 2 count by Anthony Bowens. Daniels plants Bowens. We get a blind tag by Luchasaurus. Chops by Luchasaurus. Choke slams Brian Pillman Jr. and choke slams Griff Garrison. Choke slams Kazarian outside the ring. We get a couple kicks by Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus both drop their respective wrestlers. We get a cover and a 2 count. Pillman hits a springboard clothesline on Jungle Boy. We get a cover and a 2 count. Jungle Boy counters with a clothesline later on. Jungle Boy goes to the top. Daniels grabs Jungle Boy. Daniel drops on Luchasaurus. Stiff right hand on Jungle Boy. Pillman rolls up Kazarian. Kazarian picks up Brian Pillman. Tombstone style. And Daniels hits the BME, the best moonsault ever. Cover and a 3 count. SCU will face the one and only AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks, next week. I expected them to win after what happened last week. Of course, they did confront the Young Bucks last week on Dynamite. Of course, they're going to face the Young Bucks. But, of course, the Young Bucks are going to go over in this match, and SCU is going to be split up. That's my assumption. All right. Now, one thing I will say about the undercard, because the undercard was throughout the entire first hour, is that apparently, well, I wouldn't want to say apparently, but while I was watching it on television, it did say the show was live on the top left corner of my screen. But I was looking at Twitter, and apparently the fans that attended the show basically saw all of the undercard on the screen. Those were not live at all, which, in my opinion, I think is really dumb because you're basically lying to the people watching on television saying that the show is live. But once you find out on Twitter that, like, literally the show is technically not live when it comes to the undercard, it's ridiculous, man. And I was like, bro, really? Like, I understand they're trying to save up for blood and guts, but, like, come on, give them action, like, in person instead of just having the fans watch it on the screen. That's one gripe that I had with this show. And it said live throughout the undercard on here, and that was a lie. It was not live. It was actually pre-taped. I believe it was pre-taped last week. Correct me if I'm wrong. I heard a report that said it was pre-taped last week. But, I mean, like, when you do a live show, do a live show. Don't pre-tape matches. And then when you have fans come in attendance, literally you have fans like drive like 2 hours to watch this entire show, and then for the undercard you just give them the matches on a screen, pre-taped matches. Like, come on now, you can't do that. Now, granted, the blood and guts match was live, so that was great, that was awesome. But like, I mean, I thought it was dumb to have the entire undercard be pre-taped without us fans watching on television knowing. But hey, it's AEW. They make mistakes, and we got to call them out on it because we can't be biased. All right, we got a Kenny Omega announcement. So the announcement is basically Pac versus Orange Cassidy, who are the number 1 and number 2 ranked competitors in AEW right now for the AEW World Title. They will face in a eliminator match. Whoever wins faces Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. So basically, Omega comes out with Michael Nakazawa with all the gold he has, because, Kenny Omega is the belt collector. And one thing is weird? Seeing the TNA, not the Impact, the TNA World Title on TNT. That is the biggest exposure that Impact has had in ages. I don't care what anybody says. So far, like, their biggest rating was like a 2, and that was at that January 4th, 2010 show on Spike. But, like, bro, seeing the TNA World title on TNT is mind-boggling. I'm sorry. It just is. I know it's the smallest thing in the world, but, like, it is mind-boggling. But, yeah. So he just cuts a promo how, like, you know, he has all the gold and all that stuff. Orange Cassidy proceeds to just walk up to Kenny out of nowhere. No music, no. He just proceeds to walk up. And then Kenny, I don't want to say bury, but, like, he just verbally destroyed Orange Cassidy. Omega just verbally destroyed Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy was just, like, standing there, as Orange Cassidy does. He basically states that he will never be like him. Says that the only thing that Cassidy is that's championship material was ripped off of Kenny Omega when it came to the glasses. Because, you know, back in New Japan, and in AEW in recent months, like, you know, he had, during his heel run, Omega has his glasses, and, you know, quote unquote, it's ripped off by Omega. Omega proceeds to take his glasses and just leaves with the glasses with Nakazawa. And Cassidy does nothing. He just stood there, and I was like, bro, he just verbally destroyed him. He didn't bury him, but, like, he verbally destroyed him. Now, what are my thoughts on Packin versus Orange Cassidy next week? I think it will be a really good match. I mean, their match at Revolution last year was really awesome. It was really entertaining, too, with the full crowd there. And it's going to be awesome with the full crowd this year at Double or Nothing, because, as I stated earlier, Double or Nothing is going to be in full capacity at Daly's Place, May 30th. It's going to be an awesome match. Well, actually, no, wait. Pac versus Orange Cassidy, that's next week on Dynamite. I'm sorry, my bad. I apologize. But whoever wins, that's going to face Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing, May 30th, with the packed crowd is going to be awesome. Who do I think is going to win? I would love to say Orange Cassidy, but, I mean, like, I feel like Pac is going to win. I mean, in my opinion, I think Pac... Now, you shouldn't doubt Orange Cassidy at this stage of the game. I think Orange Cassidy proved himself. This guy's a legit pro wrestler. I don't care what anybody says. This guy's a legit pro wrestler. He has proved his craft in the ring. He's always been a pro wrestler. The gimmick that he has is an entertaining gimmick. But, like, people need to realize, like, that's his gimmick. And he is a pro wrestler and knows how to wrestle. The people that are saying, "Oh, he's not a legit wrestler," you're lying. No, he is a legit pro wrestler. Orange Cassidy is awesome. But I do think Pac will go over next week, and he will face Omega at Double or Nothing with the full crowd. I mean, Pac and Omega, I mean, they did face at All Out 2 years ago, and that was an awesome match. I mean, Omega had Pac literally pass out when he applied that brutalizer on him. And also, they did have that Iron Man match on the Go Home Dynamite before Revolution last year, which that was an awesome match too. I really enjoyed that match. One of the best matches in Dynamite history, in my opinion. Pac versus Omega in that Iron Man match last year. But I do think it will be Kenny Omega versus Pac at Double or Nothing. We get an interview with Miro before the Blood and Guts match. He basically takes out a contract and basically states he will target any champion. Any champion in AEW is put on notice, and that announces he will face Darby Allin next week on Dynamite. Now, I will say this. I would have booked this match for Double or Nothing and have Miro go over. Now, maybe Miro's most likely probably going to go over next week, but I would have booked this match for Double or Nothing and continue having Darby Allin to defend his title against other people for the TNT title. And then until Double or Nothing, Miro faces Darby Allin, just brutalizes Darby, like just kills him and wins the TNT title. But apparently we're going to be getting this match next week. Oh well, but I would have booked this match for Double or Nothing. If I was booking this, I would have booked this match for Double or Nothing. All right, finally we get the main event. We got the Blood and Guts match, aka WarGames, Inner Circle versus Pinnacle. Now, what are my thoughts overall on this WarGames match? I will call it WarGames, but it's Blood and Guts. It's the same thing. It's just that AEW doesn't own the name WarGames. WWE owns the name WarGames. So this match overall, balls to the wall. Amazing. I enjoyed this match. From the moment Guevara and Harwood were in the cage, they just beat the shit out of each other. For lack of a better term, they beat the shit out of each other. But, like, there were some devastating spots in this and the chair shots were brutal. Like, there were headshots. Chair shots to the head in this match. And, like, the last time we saw a chair shot to the head was at Fyter Fest 2 years ago, where Shawn Spears literally just threw that shot, literally threw that chair. Well, it didn't throw it, but, like, hit Cody with the chair to the head, and that looked brutal as hell. Wardlow was taking some crazy shots to the head. Like, Sammy was throwing those chairs like crazy. Ortiz was throwing chairs. They were basically doing some Sabu type stuff when it came to the chairs. But, yeah. And also, if you compare it to the NXT WarGames matches, the NXT WarGames matches were awesome. I really enjoyed it. In my opinion, the best WarGames match when it came to NXT was Undisputed Era versus Ricochet and Pete Dunne and the War Raiders. But I feel like the thing with that is it's kind of their own twist on it, because NXT uses the shark cages and there's no top on the cage. This Blood and Guts match was an old school approach. So, like, back to the days of Crockett, back to the days of the NWA or WCW, there was a top on the cage. Not only that, the finish of the match was either surrender or submission. There was no pinfalls in this match. So this is an old school approach to WarGames. This is like Dusty Rhodes' like main, and also not only that, you had all of the guys in each of their respective teams outside of the cage before they would enter. That was how WarGames was originally done back in the day. So I really love the old school vibe of WarGames finally like back. This is the true WarGames. Nothing against NXT. NXT's WarGames was perfect, but at the same time, this is the real WarGames here. Blood and Guts. This match, legit, was the real WarGames. And I will talk about that ending, because a lot of people were complaining about that ending. But I will talk about that ending. But right now I'm going to be starting with the match. Sammy Guevara and Dax Harwood start. Guevara jumps over the top rope into the other ring on Harwood. Both brawl, literally. They just beat the crap out of each other as soon as the match started. Dax Harwood hits a shoulder tackle. We get a spine buster by Harwood. Tries to pin Guevara, but he cannot, because it's submit or surrender, as I stated earlier. Harwood works on Guevara. We get a couple chops by Sammy. Repeated hits to the head on Harwood on the top turnbuckle. Jumping rider kick by Guevara. Both are on the top rope trying to hit each other on the steel. We get repeated chops by both wrestlers. Harwood falls on his knee. Guevara works on Harwood. Harwood gets sent to the cage face first. Harwood is busted open. We get an insecurity by Guevara. Springboard cutter on Guevara by Harwood. Shawn Spears is the next participant in this match. I'm not going to lie, though. One thing I will say is that Sammy Guevara throughout this match looked like $1,000,000. This guy was amazing in this match. Literally. The spots that Sammy Guevara was doing in this match were insane. And Sammy Guevara, like, if you watch any of his matches, I mean, this guy is great and amazing. But, like, when you watch this match, it really shows you how great this guy really is. So Shawn Spears is the next participant. He comes in with the chair because Shawn Spears is the chairman. Plants Guevara to the mat. Guevara fights back. Spears hits a devastating chair shot on Guevara. Spears is hitting repeated right hands on Guevara. Ortiz is the next participant. Throws a chair on Spears, and I'm telling you, these chair shots, they were throwing chairs, bashing each other's heads with chairs. Bro, chair shots were everywhere in this match. Goes after Harwood and Spears. Throws the chair at Harwood, sends the chair to the throat on Spears, hits Harwood with the chair again. Both Spears and Guevara are on the top rope. Ortiz throws the chair on Spears. We get a Spanish fly. A Spanish fly by Guevara. Both Spears and Guevara were basically on the top of the rope, on the top rope, in the middle of the top rope, and trying to like hold each other to try to like not fall. Ortiz just throws the chair Sabu-like on the back of Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears just goes to the other rope, and Guevara just proceeds to hit a freaking Spanish fly. That looked amazing. That was my favorite spot of the night, by the way. That was my favorite spot of the entire match. So that was a badass Spanish fly. Ortiz is just going crazy in this match. Guevara is busted open. Cash Wheeler is the next participant. We get a clothesline by Wheeler. A brainbuster by FTR on Ortiz. Spears sends Guevara on the cage. Wheeler sends Ortiz face first on the cage. Guevara gets thrown on the cage. Ortiz gets hit in devastating fashion face first on the cage. Santana gets entered in the match after that. Works on everyone. Santana plants Wheeler with a Uranagi. plants Harwood. During commercial, Pinnacle is taking control. Wardlow later enters the match. Now, one thing that people were complaining about this was the commercial breaks. I will agree with that. I mean, like, it's not AEW's call, it's TNT's call when it comes to the commercial breaks because, it's their network. But, like, at the same time, some big moments happened during the match while it was on commercial break, and that's what was not great, but it is, oh well. What can you do? It's out of AEW's control. So basically, Wardlow enters the match. Ortiz, Sammy, and Santana are targeting Wardlow. Wardlow throws Sammy Guevara. He's basically just killing everybody, dominating everybody, and defending the Pinnacle. Guevara tries to work on Wardlow, throws Guevara on the cage. Jake Hager is the next participant and dominates everyone from against the Pinnacle. We get a big boot by Hager, a Hager bomb on Wheeler, Hager lock on Spears, face off between Wardlow and Hager, which was awesome, by the way. I really enjoyed the interaction between the two. We get a couple right hands by both Wardlow and Hager. Hager lands in his feet and gets hit on the cage. Hager used his knees on Wardlow. MJF is the next participant because the Pinnacle actually have the advantage in this match. We get a couple right hands on Ortiz. MJF and the Pinnacle are dominating at this point, and Cash Wheeler is bleeding a lot. One thing I will say about this match is that there was a lot of blood in this match, a lot of blood. Hence the name Blood and Guts, and it really lived up to the name. Jericho was the final entrant, and Blood and Guts or WarGames officially begins. Face off between both Pinnacle and the Inner Circle in each ring. Both run and just brawl, which was awesome. I enjoyed it. Jericho has the bat and hits every member of the Pinnacle. Jericho and Spears are basically like climbing the cage and sending his head. He sends Spears' head on the scaffolding. Harwood is chopping on Ortiz. The ring gets exposed, so there's wood under that ring. FTR wants to pile drive Santana and Ortiz. Santana and Ortiz counter. Guevara goes to the top rope. We get a spike pile driver. So basically Guevara just goes, I believe it was on the middle rope, correct me if I'm wrong, or the top rope. And he just jumps off and just plants them down. So that was a spike pile driver. We get a backbreaker by Jericho and Wheeler. Ortiz takes a chair on Spears. Guevara goes coast to coast. Hence, Shane McMahon. So he basically pulls a Shane McMahon and Guevara goes coast to coast. Another reason why Sammy Guevara is great. This guy doesn't care either about, he will put on a great match. Jericho takes the turnbuckle and hits MJF with it. Santana has a fork and he drives it to the face of MJF. Jericho uses the bat to choke Wardlow. We get a couple right hands by Jericho on MJF. Inner Circle is basically dominating at this point. Wardlow's like the only one that's like trying to get up on his feet. Throws Guevara to the mat. Santana hits Wardlow. We get literally Sammy Guevara just swings the chair at Wardlow right on the side of his head, which looked crazy. He throws Guevara to the mat in devastating fashion. Santana hits Wardlow. We get a chair to Wardlow again. Hager comes in. Then we get multiple chair shots to Wardlow. Inner Circle throughout the commercial break is continuing to just dominate. And during the commercial break, Tully Blanchard sends the referee to the guardrail. He grabs the key and opens the door. MJF is going up the cage in the outside. We come back to commercial break. MJF is on top of the cage. Jericho wants to go to the top. And by this point, Inner Circle is just dominating right now. Jericho climbs to the top. We get a lion tamer on top of the cage on MJF. Low blow on Jericho by MJF. We get a Fujiwara armbar by MJF. MJF sends the arm of Jericho repeatedly on the cage. Bites the arm of Jericho. We get an armbar applied by MJF on Jericho. MJF has the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Hits Jericho in the face. And he's literally about to throw Jericho outside the ring. And what happens is the entire Inner Circle, while the Pinnacle was down, the entire Inner Circle was just outside. And Sammy says, hey, we surrender. We don't want any more. Pinnacle officially wins Blood and Guts. And after that, what do you know? MJF just throws Jericho because he's MJF and he's a heel and he doesn't care. MJF his character is just a terrible human being. Throws Jericho outside the cage on the platform. Now this was not the finish of the match, thankfully. But this was the ending to the show. A lot of people were complaining about how it all went down. Now, what happened was that when MJF threw Jericho outside the cage, the camera shot showed Jericho from behind falling onto the platform. And basically, it showed that there was a cushion under that platform. And it showed. Now, my first reaction, because I actually filmed it on one of my stories for my Instagram, and I was like, holy shit, that looked badass. And then I go to Twitter and I literally see like, oh my God, this sucked. This whole spot sucked. And I was like, what are you talking about? I look back and I was like, oh, now I see why people have a problem with it. Now, what are my thoughts on this whole situation that we have provided ourselves with? One thing I will say is that Chris Jericho is 50 years old. He's not going to fall on concrete. This is not... If you compare this situation to the botch that happened at Revolution, which was terrible, by the way. The botch that happened at Revolution, everybody expected a legit exploding ring, but we never got that. Thankfully, they had the balls to actually like mention that on Dynamite. But at the same time, I mean, like they did botch it, and it looked terrible. I don't care if you're defending that. I'm sorry, no, that was a botch and it was terrible. But that was worse than this. Jericho is 50 years old and he's not going to fall on concrete. I'm sorry. But at the same time, like, literally, you had fans complain about this. Like, literally, let's go back to All Out. Remember when Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy faced off? And then literally, Guevara just speared Hardy through the top onto the concrete? That was on AEW's hands. That was a problem right there. Because it's an example of AEW showing that they do a lot of high spots, but at the same time, they have to keep more of an eye on the wrestlers. In this case, I feel like they're trying to go the safe route because, of course, Jericho's not going to fall on concrete. But at the same time, they could have shot it better. They had other camera shots. They did show a replay, but when you saw it live as it happened, you saw the cushion there. So that's the issue. The issue is the camera shots, as other podcasters and YouTubers say, and I agree. Fans were complaining that Matt Hardy fell on concrete, and other fans right now were complaining that he didn't fall on concrete and he fell on cushions. I was shocked and I was like, okay, now I understand why people are pissed. But at the same time, I understand that they're trying to do it safely. But at the same time, you have to, like, shoot it better to make it a little more realistic. Maybe don't show where Jericho fell and actually like let's go back to the match that Shane McMahon and The Miz had at WrestleMania 35, which I attended. They fell on a platform, but they didn't. I assume that there was cushions there to protect both, of course, but at the same time, they didn't show it. They showed it from like a far distance. That's what AEW should have done with this instance. They should have had a far shot, instead of doing a close-up shot of Jericho falling, they should have had a far shot of Jericho falling to make it seem, wow, this guy got killed. You know what I mean? But instead, that didn't happen, and that was a major issue. AEW needs to fix more of that. And some people blame it on AEW, some people blame it on Tony Khan. And, there are instances where Tony Khan sometimes acts like a fan mark rather than a promoter, and I do believe sometimes Tony Khan needs to ditch that and actually be a promoter and actually take action immediately. That's my opinion on Tony Khan. Tony Khan is awesome at what he does. I'm just saying sometimes he acts like a fan instead of a promoter, and during times he needs to act like a promoter and take action immediately. But some people, point the finger at Jericho. Who knows? Maybe it was a Jericho idea. But I mean, the camera angles, you need to fix those camera angles, man. If you want it to seem like legit, if you want it to make it seem legit, have a better shot of that. Like that was terrible. Like that shot was terrible. Look, Jericho falling on cushions, say what you want. I understand why they did it. They try to make it safe, but at the same time, just shoot it better. Shoot it better. That's the main argument. Shoot it better. If you shot it better, everything would have been fine. But yeah, that was blood and guts. That was my quote unquote, I don't want to say rant, but that's what it was. But yeah. Oh, what are your thoughts on the show? I really enjoyed the show. This show was awesome. I loved the crowd in this show. The show really like the crowd was amped up, and it was 50% capacity. Who knows what's gonna happen at Double or Nothing on May 30th at Daly's Place when it's full capacity? That's gonna be ridiculously awesome, and I can't wait to watch on pay-per-view, man. Like, it's gonna be a really awesome show, and I'm just, I'm gonna be enjoying it. But yeah, that was my Blood and Guts review. Overall thoughts: I give this show an A or an A-, or probably a B+. I don't know. But like, this show was great. I really enjoyed it. Just there was a couple nitpicks there where the undercard was pre-taped, which shouldn't have been pre-taped, by the way. That undercard should have been live and not pre-taped, because the people that paid their money to go to the show don't want to see pre-taped matches. They actually want to see live matches. So yeah, I don't know why you should be defending that. I think honestly, like, you should be on the side that fans should watch live matches instead of pre-taped matches. But yeah, it is what it is. And also the spot, we discussed that the camera work should be much better. I understand that they're trying to protect Jericho, and it makes the perfect sense because he's 50 years old. He's not going to fall on concrete. That makes no sense. But film it better to make it more realistic. Because if you just do a close-up shot, I mean, like, and you see the cushions there, I mean, like, bruh, really? It's obvious. It's obvious, man. You got to stop making things obvious. That's the current problem with not only AEW, but pro wrestling in general. I feel like there's some spots where they make it seem obvious, you know what I mean, that it's a work. And I love realism in wrestling, and you need to fix that. But yeah, that was my quote-unquote rant. This was Blood and Guts. Overall thoughts: awesome show. The Blood and Guts match itself delivered 100%. I loved every second of this match. This match delivered, and it was what WarGames is all about. That's what it is. But yeah, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that notifications. And this was Blood and Guts, and this is Broken Havoc, signing out.